I was saying to a friend today, like, sometimes it feels like we're living in the future. I tried a VR headset at the weekend, and then I just was like, I kind of have to get one of these. It's a bit cool.
What game did you play on it? Or game?
What was it? I can't remember what it was called. It was on the Oculus Quest 2, and it was a game where there were red men running at you with various weapons, and you had to shoot them before they got to you. So obviously, being in VR and 3D, it was incredibly threatening. Actually, having these, your suspension of disbelief was quite not suspended, because it feels real. Like, you forget where you are and you're in the game. And
you really do.
Yeah, I died a few times. But
now, were you playing with friends? Were friends like on your team shooting the other red men? Or
no, it was a solo game. But I think there are co-op games and things, but I don't know enough about it to know where to start with that yet. Anyway,
it is so much fun watching people use VR for the first time. One of my friends used to bring his PC and VR kit. I mean, and this was 3 or 4 years ago, to our makerspace on video game night, and people, you'd get to see a dozen people try VR for the first time, and it's amazing to watch the reaction.
Yeah.
That's
I'm looking
more fun
forward
than
to
being in VR. I think is watching the other people.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, because I think it's going to be quite good for world exploring. So by that I mean just like feeling like you're in a different environment. One of the things I like to do is really good lighting, and in winter in the UK it's really dark and kind of dreary, and when I put the headset on I was like, I mean it's summer at the moment so it's okay, but in winter I can imagine putting the headset on and being like, wow, there's a palm tree, sunset, life's good,
Yeah.
So it just felt like I was there, even though it looked CG and things, but it still was awesome. So,
but it'll get better every year really. Too.
Yeah. And I heard someone saying that
I tend to get a bit of motion sickness when I put those on, so it's not much fun for.
I wonder what triggers that though, because I thought I might be, but I've not felt any kind of any sickness or whatever. Motion sickness.
I guess I shouldn't say that because I haven't tried a VR headset in a while, but I went to actually Legoland with my kids, which they enjoyed fabulously. But they had a bunch of simulator rides, and there was one. It was like the Lego City ride or something, and it was amazing. It was almost like an IMAX screen, and you were in a thing and just like flying through there. And the whole time I'm like, this is really incredible. But I feel like I'm going to throw up. So,
I think things have changed. Like, I think they figured out it was something to do with the speed of the tracking, and they've improved it a lot, I think.
Maybe so.
And especially if you have that input, like if the ride is moving around, when your eyes don't match your other senses, like if you're getting jostled around before, if it doesn't, your brain might not, process that well for some folks.
Yeah. I'm kind of prone to that anyway. I just, I remember growing up, my dad was a big, loved fishing. And, I loved being with my dad, so I'd go fishing with him. But it was like every weekend I was just chumming the fishes, as they like to say. And, just throwing up every weekend up over the boat. And it's like,
so that's what,
it was fun, but it was kind of not fun too at times. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned Legoland. That's when I realized I was living in the future. I said, if I could tell 6-year-old me that I have a robot here that can make Legos, I mean, that would have been, they'd be like, no, you can't have a robot that makes Legos. I would have never believed it.
Yeah, well, I guess you can. At least Legos or, some sort of knockoff brand.
Yeah, well, and Legos are hard to print because the tolerances have to be exact. But, if I made one and handed it to 6-year-old me, he would think that was a Lego. I mean, he would think I would assume it was compatible. I wouldn't know any better. I'm 6 years old.
I saw on Twitter somebody had posted a picture of a knockoff Star Wars Lego thing he got. It was called a Millennial Hawk instead of a Millennium Falcon.
That's just bad.
The 3D printable Millennium Falcon up on Thingiverse is the Millennium Malkin.
Okay.
I suppose if that's all it takes to get past trademarks and stuff, It's not
Well,
much safe.
I tried to find it later, because I thought that'd be pretty funny, and I don't have $200 to spend on an actual Millennium Falcon, and I couldn't find it, so maybe it actually got taken down.
Yeah. Have they done a drone? Like, has anyone done a kind of drone that looks like the Millennium Falcon?
Yes, I think the Flight Test YouTube channel has a big Millennium Falcon build video out of it's
cool.
foam core with there's an already assembled drone inside with foam all around, and they have
it looks awesome. I presume
they have something that looks like a Star Destroyer that I think flies more like a plane too. It's that triangular shape, but they painted it to look like a.
Cool. I'm going to have to look that up. Yeah,
it is amazing when you go to, say, Legoland or even Disney World. They had a big Lego store near there, and it's like you go in these stores. It's like, wow, you can literally spend $1,000 in a Lego. I mean, it was high hundreds at least of dollars in Lego sets, and it's. I mean, I like Legos, but I don't necessarily have that kind of cash laying around either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it used to blow my mind as a child, like how expensive Lego was, and I was like, so, like, most of the Lego I got was just like some random tub that was in like a charity shop, and so I had all these like 1980s components, and I ended up working out what what kits they were from. So obviously that was beyond really earlier than obviously when I was born. So it was almost quite nostalgic to see these old like 1980s. Like even now, I look at the set instructions and I'm like, hey, I've got nostalgic feelings over that set because there were some components from it in my Lego.
Pat and I could only ever get the 1980s Legos as well when we were little kids.
It's true. That's what we had. That was what was new.
All right. So did you get like that moon? There was like a moon base type set. There was themed dark blue, black, and had like these alien.
The black one was awesome because the guy that came with the black set had a helmet with a black visor that opened and closed, and that was I was telling my friend's son that when we were kids and my friends would come over and we'd share my Legos, we only had one hair for all the Lego people, right. So most of us had to use hats or share the hair. And now it's all about the Lego people. I mean, he has like 100 people that are all different with different hats, different hair.
It's incredible, actually, the variation they managed to get into such a simple shape. Like, it must be quite fun working at Lego because you are working within certain constraints, and I can imagine that being actually creatively quite interesting as a job.
Yep.
So I can imagine, like, if someone got Lego kit designing, that must be such a cool job.
Oh, that would be a really cool job.
So cool.
6-year-old me would have loved to have gotten that job.
Oh, for sure.
I think it's often a thought of mine presently that I liked building Lego back then. And it was really cool to me to be able to construct a thing from components. And it's like, I'm doing that now, only I'm using like aluminium and screws and stuff. So it's like grown-up Lego. And I just wonder how many engineers Lego as a company have made just by making a cool toy.
It's amazing because the first time, when I was in college, I got a co-op job, basically an internship. And, I'm talking to the engineer there, the manager, who was very talented engineer, and I'm talking to him. I see these things that I've made, and they've made, and I always thought, well, you got to like get something in and weld it up and whatever else. But they had these components that could fit together. They called them 80-20, but it's basically aluminum extrusion. I mean, it was just such amazing stuff, and I was like, oh, this is just like Legos or Lego as you might say in the UK, but it's just like Legos. You put them together and you screw them together. You don't really have to do any sort of things like. Yeah, that's pretty much how it works. I think he was happy to answer he was happy that I was entertained, but it was just so amazing to me that if you design something well, you get it in as an engineer and you could just put it together. I don't know. It's the first thing I thought of. It's just like Legos and just the way that a proper panel is wired up is like you were saying, we live in the future, and this was like 20 years ago at the time, so who knows what they have now? But it's amazing. That being said, if a panel's not taken care of, then it's probably looks very terrible too. 20
Jeremy,
years,
there's a website you could go to now where there's a vendor. You can, in 3D, design something out of 80/20 aluminum with all the connectors and panels and things and different parts that they sell, and hit a button, and they will mail you all of the components from the thing you designed in 3D. I think it's terribly expensive. I think they charge an awful lot for the service.
That's really cool,
It's like it is.
CAD
Isn't that really cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's neat stuff. They call it 80/20 here because of Pareto. I guess Pareto's principle, right? 80% of your problems come from 20% of your causes, I believe.
Is that really why they call it that?
I believe it is. I remember having a catalog, and I think it said something about that. But, I say something like that to... I just remember having this conversation with Max, our old host, who's a German, and he thought 80/20 was the dimensions of like 80 millimeters by 20 millimeters. Okay. Which actually makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, except that they're square usually. They're not 80 or... Well, they might be 20. I figured it might be percentages of some sort. Like, it's 80% aluminum, 20% air, or something, where all the channels are and the hole through the middle. But I made that up. I don't know if that's...
Maybe that's what it was, and they're just like, oh, well, Pareto's principle, that's interesting, too. Maybe we'll just kind of rebrand ourselves.
Yeah.
Whatever works. I mean, they're like the 80/20 is like the Matt Perks of aluminum extrusion. So they're doing a good job.
Yeah, Matt, I was excited to see that your camera build project is so many 3D printed parts and custom pieces and stuff that somebody like me who might... Well, I shouldn't say that I'm not good at something, but maybe I'm not good at measuring and cutting and. But I'm pretty good at hitting print on my 3D printer and putting Legos together.
Yeah, it makes things a lot easier, to be fair. And I try and avoid using 3D printed parts because I often get comments saying like, oh, this project cost plus $500 for a 3D printer, and sometimes people can be kind of weirdly hostile about it. So whenever I was discouraged from using 3D printing because not everyone has a 3D printer, but this time I just went with it and no one's actually complained, so I might start using it more often. But
it's like, oh, you could buy a 3D printer for $150, a cheap one but fairly competent. Or you could buy a jigsaw, electric jigsaw. Nobody's going to give you a hard time about that for $150.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, but it makes things so much easier when a project is built from the ground up around 3D printing. For the builder of it, it's so easy to put together.
And it's so much easier to repeat your success.
Yeah.
For someone else to repeat it.
Yeah. So, that's one of the things I'm doing at the moment is just a more easily built version of the camera project, almost majorly even more like 3D printed parts, and everything else is super easy to get hold of, so it'll be cheaper, lighter, and it's difficult though getting my head around designing in 3D. I'll say that because I often I'm quite hands-on. I'll do things on, sketch an idea on paper and then just build it with the materials I have around. But when I'm actually constructing it on the computer first, I realize how far ahead I have to actually think to make the whole thing as a whole work properly afterwards. And it's taking a lot longer than I thought. Actually, it's taken me by surprise.
Yeah, there's something I used to talk about Like, I have a simple thing. My camera's on a thing that's attached to a thing with a thing. I'm going to say thing a lot, but most of this doesn't matter. The important part is where it attaches to my monitor stand. It's just a round 3D printed piece with a hole in the top. And I always said I could go out in the garage and cut a dowel down to size, drill a hole in it, and stick it in there, and it'd work. But then if I want another one, I have to go out in the garage, cut a dowel to size, and, do it again. Whereas with this, I can send this to somebody and they can print it, and it just works for them if they have the same monitor stand.
Yeah. We're living in the future.
Living in the future.
Yeah.
Well,
it feels like that.
Well,
anyway.
I guess that being said, we've had a good conversation. Is there anything else you want to tell us about Mac or Pat?
I'm Pat. Pat
You're
is
Pat,
me.
and this is Matt. Matt, is there anything else you want to tell us about before we kind of wrap things up?
Well, can I ask a question before
sure.
Matt tells
Absolutely.
us anything? I saw that you have a Discord server now, and
I do.
I wanted to.
Yes.
I was curious how that's working. I'm fascinated. I love our Discord server. We have, but it's rather intimate. We have maybe a few hundred people have ever joined, and there's maybe a dozen people that participate every day, and it's it's a friendly play. I can't even. I don't know what I want to ask, Matt, but yours must be
it's
orders of magnitude busier.
It is quite big and active, but I actually haven't partaken in it and much.
Oh.
I occasionally drop in.
Yeah.
But the problem is I have quite a few people who message me around work-related things, sponsors, peripheral things, and I don't have much headspace to put towards actually just chatting to people or answering questions.
Yeah.
If I just need to focus on making videos, and so unfortunately I've not actually partaken in it as much. There's a forum as well, which is going quite well. I'm more of a forum guy, so because it's a bit slower, I can take peruse things. I find Discord goes past so fast, or at least when they get larger, and I can't keep up with them, and information often gets buried. But they're great to interact with people and stuff. But and they
do you have
a lot of
patron only area on your Discord server to
yes,
funnel
I believe
that
so,
down
yes.
to you?
Yes, yeah. So it's
and that's probably still massive at your scale too.
I don't know, with YouTube, there's always someone bigger and more popular than me, or
of course.
Whatever. So I wouldn't describe it as massive, because it's it's
Discord and it's
yeah,
real-time chat. It goes from it doesn't take much to go from dozens of people talking, and then when you get to hundreds, you just can't keep up anymore. And
yeah.
I mean,
it's
I don't know how many patrons you have, and I don't know how many of them participate in your patron-only part of Discord, but I bet even that number is big enough that it would be difficult to...
Well, as I say, I've not really interacted much with Discord as much as I should or need to get to, but it's just a time thing. I only have so many hours in the day, and for me, I prefer just building things, and
yeah.
I really want to talk to the community more, but I feel like it might be better to start doing live streams to interact with them directly, because otherwise, I get so many emails as well. I just can't keep up with it, and I don't like not replying to things. So I'm quite almost like OCD with making sure everyone's replied to, but I physically can't keep up, and that makes me almost like not look at my emails. So because I don't want to know that I've not replied to someone. So if anyone has sent me a message and not heard back, that's why, and it's not personal.
We are humbled. We're humbled that you chose to come on the show with us. It's really...
Well, thank you for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it, and
it's always fun, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And maybe in a year's time, hopefully, I'll be at nearly 5 million subscribers or something. We'll see.
Yeah, that'd be great. We should bring I don't know,
have a little cake,
party poppers or something.
Yeah, with 5 candles on it.
Or that'd be kind of cruel to bring a cake and then I guess I would just eat it, or maybe Pat would.
We could do a virtual cake, just a little logo on the screen.
Well, we can mail one out ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that tastes pretty bad by the time we got to
design it as a STL. I can print it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, so I guess let's see. Oh, we're talking about the clock too. I wanted
Jeremy, we didn't talk about your clock, and I'm excited. I think it looks really cool too.
Okay, well,
can we see it?
I'll just explain this. Yeah, so listen to this.
Can you hold one
we'll
up?
just see right there. It's on the screen here to my right. I'm just pointing at it. It's kind of in the distance. It's too small, but I will. Yeah. I will grab it, and
so
I'll be right just a second. So it's still a bit of prototype, but you mentioned earlier, is there ever a project you kind of put aside and just put in the basement or whatever. And for the longest time, I've thought it'd be so cool to have like a clock here, clock. So maybe I have a Eastern time zone and California time zone, or maybe Pat's time zone, maybe England or China, where my PCBs are coming from. And my first thought was that it'll all be analog clocks and they could be linked together with a gear system. So I made this, which is meant to have, basically it's got a little, it's driven by one motor down here, and then it's got a central gear and then some gears on the side. And this worked okay. You could put two time zones on it. I was thinking like California time and then, Eastern time where I live. For whatever reason, it stopped keeping track of time very well, and I think it was just kind of skipping steps because of the mechanical nature of it.
Right.
So naturally, the second one I tried to make had 4 of these time zones, or 4 time zones and 4 dials on it, but that one doesn't even exist anymore. I just kind of took it apart for parts. But this is over several years. But since then, I learned how to design PCBs, printed circuit boards, and I came up with this clock that actually it gets the time off the network. So every time you plug it in, it gets the time. So right now it's 24-hour time. So it's 16:26, which is 4 p.m. or 4:26 p.m. And the idea is that on the sides, you can plug basically other clock phases in, so you can chain these up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And right now it's got a printed circuit board as the diffuser. Anyway, this is still a bit of a prototype, but I've got a new one ordered, but I'm going to probably put out a video on this one just because it's just time to put it out.
It looks
really, another cool thing is...
I like its appearance because it's like you're using the PCB as its aesthetic, and I like that. That's very cool.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It's a combination of laziness and not laziness. You know what I mean? It's kind of like...
convenience, isn't it? Yeah.
Proactive laziness, I suppose. I can order this from the PCB manufacturer, and there's where it is. And I guess the other cool thing, and I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with it, but these I'm using ESP32 chip on this, which actually has capacitive sensors. So if I hit it,
nice.
if I hit a certain thing in a certain area, it'll change colors. So maybe that'll show off temperature or something like that. So, anyway, this has been a super long-term project. Even in this iteration, it's been like months of work. And before that, it's been like years of just thought and thinking like, how can I do this? So I guess to answer your question, yeah, sometimes things get put aside, but then sometimes they lead to new ideas, I guess. And I guess that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can refine it over time. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of like you. I mean, you made your first PlayStation video, and now you have several more that have all done fantastically. So I guess, you learn stuff over time, and hopefully dead ends aren't total wastes.
No. Yeah, I suppose for me it's as well, I'm following the algorithm a bit, which I don't mind because it keeps things moving. Like it keeps me mixing things up. Some people don't like it, but I think it's kind of a good thing. There's competition. Keeps you on your toes.
Do you ever go into any like creator conferences or whatever? I've been to one, right?
Yes, and I'm going to one this October actually, which is in where is it? Northampton, I think. No, Nottingham. Yeah, it's in Nottingham. So I'll be going there this October. Did
you find that was a fun time? I mean, were you?
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
Did you feel?
Yeah. It was the first time I'd met other YouTubers, and it was great to actually talk YouTube. And everyone had like similar problems and similar ways of doing things, and obviously new things as well, that new methods that can be learnt, and you can just talk to people that have a similar job. It's quite a beneficial thing to do. So.
Well, did you find you were one of the? I mean, I certainly were one of the more popular ones, but you probably weren't. You were probably among people that had similar size audiences, and some that were.
I think,
or maybe you were the most popular. I don't want to.
Yeah, on that particular conference, I think I was the most subscribed, because it was it was a small scale conference. It was for UK kind of educational creators and things, and I think at that time I had the most subscribers.
Okay.
because they were. It was
well, that's totally believable too. I don't want to.
No, I mean,
I don't want to like yourself.
See, I was the biggest subscriber base, but it's just that's what it was.
But if you were, you know.
Yeah, but everyone was like the same in terms of like I don't see it just because it's a bigger number. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just everyone's doing different things and different complexities, and you know, it's just some channels play the algorithm more, to be honest. And that's what it comes down to. It's not down to skill or time put into anything. It's just down to what you value. So I valued maximizing the channel's growth and view counts and stuff, and try and keep the creativity there and make it mainstream and educational enough. But there's channels out there that do far beyond what I can ever accomplish skill-wise, and my mind is constantly blown sometimes when you go off on a YouTube rabbit hole, and it's like it's amazing. So,
but you know, I feel like there's certain people that are able to do things that are approachable and that have appeal. You know, like I feel like some people put out things like, oh, this is like, they put a great thumbnail and basically clickbait, whatever. But then other people, you know, like yourself, you do things that it looks like it could be clickbait, but then you fulfill the expectations.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's been described to me that way before, and it essentially is, though. But it's not clickbait because, like you say, I try and fulfill it. But that's a great term to use.
I hope you don't find that insulting.
No, I don't know, because I use it. I don't know how else to describe it. Aesthetically pleasing? I don't know. Yeah. It's a good catch-all term.
I was talking to somebody, actually a guest. He was by Pocket 83, but he was talking about who's the guy that made that basketball hoop that you can't miss or whatever. What's that guy's name?
What's his actual name?
Stuff Made Here. Shane.
Stuff Made Here.
He's a friend of Stephen Hawes.
Oh, okay.
We found out. Really? Yeah, they both worked for the 3D printer company. The 3D printers, the SLA 3D printers, the big Formlab. Formlab.
Wow.
Well, I was talking to Pocket, and that's what he goes by. But he so he says, I said something about the Stuff Made Here guy, and he's like, yeah, I've seen that. That's popped up, but I haven't clicked on it because it just looks so clickbaity.
Oh.
He's like, that's just something, whatever. And I was like, no, he actually follows through on it. It's interesting. It's like once you get to a certain level of quality, then people just assume it's not. I don't know.
His stuff,
it's a weird thing.
Blows my mind. Like, I know how much time it takes to build my own stuff, but it's so much simpler than what he does, and yet he still manages to do them at a regular rate. And I'm like, how is this guy? Does he work like 100 hours a week? He must do. So I'm just
I can't even imagine. It's terrific.
Blown away.
I think one advantage he has, I mean, not that I've watched that many of his videos because I just don't have that much time, but one advantage maybe he has over you in a way is that you do your stuff in a way that people can duplicate, and he does stuff basically as interesting. I don't think he means for anybody to duplicate it, and that's both are fine. I mean, both are fine for their own purposes, but I think maybe that does help speed stuff up a little bit. I don't know. What do you think, Pat?
He has so much gear, and I know he's moved into a bigger shop, but he had so much stuff, gear, equipment in his basement, probably more than the value of my house. In tools and CNC machines.
He's got lots of gear.
I mean, I'm not even kidding. That's the big metal CNC machine he uses is like a $120,000 machine on its own. Yeah. Before you add, add-ons to it, right? And then there's more machines. It's
but to
not saying
I don't know. I just think it's
Shane
different.
Is listening. I love what he's doing. It's fine. It's not. I'm very envious of all of this gear. I think it's fantastic.
I can't believe how.
No, and don't get me wrong. I'm not insulting him whatsoever. It just seems like to me, maybe that's how he's able to pull that off.
I suppose some of the shortcut, like I film every part of the process and then I have plenty of footage to edit with later. Although I've lately started trying to be a bit more thoughtful about what I actually film to speed things up, because filming things slows things down a lot. But like I looked at what he can do as like an inspiration of what a single guy can do, because as far as I'm aware, he's just one dude who builds these and programs these incredibly complex things that actually end up working. And it's like magic. Like, I can't get my head around it. Like,
you know what another advantage he has is,
cool.
Matt? It only has to work once. Right? Or, for the duration. It doesn't have to continue to work for 5 years. It has to just...
Yeah. But I have that advantage too. That's, to be fair, like the TV thing, I dismantled that. So, yeah.
Well, we all do what we can. Some people have, I don't know, but we think,
talented
as
guy.
Pat would probably say, you're doing a fantastic job, Matt.
Thank you.
Of course, and it's hard to argue with that. So, well, I guess to wrap it up, where can we find you, Matt? I think we know where we can find you, but where can we find you?
Just basically just YouTube DIY perks. That's my main place of call for when all my online
Very
stuff.
Cool. And you can find me on YouTube or wherever else. Just Google Jeremy Cook or DuckDuckGo Jeremy Cook. That's even better. A little privacy minded. Pat, what about yourself?
Well, if you Google Pat Regan, you're going to find a gentleman in Ireland, I believe, who writes UFO conspiracy theory books, and that's not me. But yeah, I'll link to wherever I am. I'm at patshead.com, and I have some very inactive things on YouTube. We're doing a good job on the Butter What Show. We're growing at about 1 subscriber per day. We're up, just about almost every day now.
Percentage-wise, that means you'll have the population of the world covered in a couple of years, right?
A billion days. No, several billion days. But I'm pretty excited. I feel like the growth is we're starting to... It always looks like kind of like a hockey stick in the graph. So as long as it keeps looking like a hockey stick, it'll be a really tall hockey stick in a year or two. And I'll be very excited.
Nice. Very cool. Well, Matt, thanks for joining us for the... you're one of the few people that has endured our hard-hitting questions here on the Create/Invent podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's been great. And, I hope I can come back next year sometime.
Well, we hope so too.
You are invited for sure.
Thank you.